All right, we are going to get set up to make a 3-color stencil. So I'm in Adobe Illustrator and I'm going to create a new file. And I want to create it so it's on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It could go either direction. So making sure you have inches, 8.5 by 11, and then we're going to create. And we are going to find a portrait of a person from the internet, and I've already saved one, but I went on and searched Prince portrait, and I looked through for one that had high contrast, and I picked this one, and I downloaded it and saved it to my desktop. So I'm going to put that into Illustrator, and I'm going to resize it on my artboard so it fills the frame. Make sure you don't stretch it out. You can hold down shift to make sure it's not going to distort it. And we're going to try to get right in the middle there. That should work. So we'll put our portrait there. Next thing we're going to do is use the image trace function in Illustrator. You want to make sure that your photo is selected, and this might show up in properties under image trace here. If you can't find it there, you can always go up to Window and down to Image Trace. Here's the window we're going to use, and we are going to change it from the default to be a 3-color photo, or just a 3-color, sorry. 3-color, and we'll select that. And there it goes. If you don't like it, you can go through and adjust different settings. If it looks okay, you can hit expand, and expand is going to add the anchor points to it. Something else that's needed is to ungroup it. So we can look at our scan here. When it's selected, you can go up to Object, and then you can go to Ungroup. Okay, we are also going to put this on another artboard, so we have another copy. And to get to there, you can always, you might have that window open, but Window and Artboards would also do it. So in Artboards, I'm going to drag Artboard 1 down to the plus sign. It will duplicate it and copy everything that's on there. So there it is, exact same artboard. And we're going to have one of these is going to be the dark part of it, and the other one is going to be the lighter part of it. So I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to have that be the darker part of my stencil. So I'm going to grab my selection arrow, and I'm going to click on one part of the brighter part, and it's acting like it's not grouped right now, but oh, it is. Okay. So I'm going to click on one of the lighter sections, and I'm going to go up to Select, Same, Fill Color. And anywhere that color shows up on here is going to be selected. I'm going to hit Delete on my keyboard and get rid of that. And it looks like it did it on the other artboard as well. So we're going to do the same thing for this darker part. So selecting the next gray part, select the same fill color, and I actually only want to select it on this one, so I might have to lock my other one. So I'm going to select what we got going on over here, and I'm going to go Object, Lock this selection, so it won't be able to delete that part of it. So I'm going to select this gray again and go up to Select at the top, Same, Fill Color. Anywhere it's on here, it's going to be selected, and I'm going to hit Delete on my keyboard. And now we just have the darkest parts of that image. And on this one, we're going to have just that darker gray, but I need to unlock it so it's not going to be selected. Object, unlock all, and for that matter, we might as well lock this side so it doesn't do the same thing to us. So select it all, object, lock this selection. Okay, now we can go back to this one, and we're going to delete the darker part. So click in one section of the darker part, select the same fill color, and hit delete. It looks kind of weird, but when you stack those two pieces on top of each other, it's going to work out. And we should be pretty set up to print this out, so we'll know what to cut for the darker part of our stencil and what we'll need to cut for the lighter color in our stencil. When we're ready, we'll go to File, then to Print, and we are going to print to the Digital Arts BizHub, as long as our computer will cooperate. So you want to make sure the printer that's selected is Digital Arts BizHub, and we are going to print on 8.5 by 11 paper, and we can go ahead and hit print, and go ahead and grab our prints and get ready to transfer it to some thicker paper.
All right, I got my prints now, prints of prints, and we got the darker one, and then we got the one with the little bit lighter color on it. And we're gonna transfer these to be on some thicker cardstock paper that we have. So you'll need to find the thicker paper. It'll be better for a stencil when spray painting. So you'll need a piece of that. The other thing you'll need is some of this transfer paper, which it has a shiny side and it also has a dull side. And you want the shinier side to be down on the paper. And you're gonna tape it into place. So I have some blue tape and I'm just gonna tape it on there so it doesn't shift while I'm working. And I'm also going to tape on my printed picture as well. And put a couple pieces of blue tape on there. And anywhere that I trace with my pen, so just any ballpoint pen will work, even if it doesn't have ink in it, the pressure is going to make it transfer to the thicker paper. So here's an example. Just draw a star, and then the star, since it had the transfer paper down, is going to transfer onto that thicker paper. So we're going to do that same thing and trace around all of the design, transferring it to the thicker paper. Where we have some of these areas that are a little bit complicated in here, I'm going to simplify those. The other thing I need to look out for is some islands, things that are going to fall away if I cut all the way around them. So this eye area would be one of those examples. If I cut all of the black out around here, this piece would fall off and not be a part of my stencil. So I need to make some connecting parts here. So I even just put in kind of some notes to myself that I need to remember not to cut this because I don't want it to fall off. So connect it here, or I could have connected it here. As long as there's some white that is going to hold it together. And that part might not make sense until you start cutting and you end up losing a piece. But going around and looking and making sure that there's areas that are connecting and not just islands of color that are going to be removed. The next step is to grab an X-Acto knife. So grab an X-Acto knife and get ready to cut out around all the areas that you marked out. You do want to carve on something, some sort of surface instead of just the tables in the classroom. So there's some chunks of cardboard or something like that would be good. But you're gonna go and start cutting along those lines that you drew on there. So I've started to cut this. Sometimes leaving a border around it can be helpful depending on your image. They'll all be a little bit different, but a border could be helpful to make sure things stay together. And it's a little bit harder to cut because it's thicker paper, but you'll spend some time cutting through and removing the parts that hopefully you put an X on to know that those pieces are leaving, and then the other parts will stay. And it takes a little while to get the hang of how it works. And using a sharp blade is helpful too. If you need a replacement blade, we can get that for you, but going through and starting to slowly cut out your design. Okay, so we got everything all cut out here, ready to go. The next step is we need to mount this on some of the thick paper again. So we're gonna put it on top of here, and we're gonna use some blue tape again to hold things down. Just so, again, we don't want it to shift, especially when we're spraying, and have it move around when we're spraying is a bad thing. The other thing you want to do is make sure that any spots that are kind of flapping up like this, you need to get them down, otherwise spray paint will get underneath here. So you can do little tiny tape rolls will work. Put it under here and then push it down. That'll work. You can put a little bit of glue on there if you're gonna be pretty quick about taking it off, but usually I just do little tiny rolls and put it underneath the part that needs to go down, and then push it down on there. So you want to do that any place that you're afraid that spray paint might just spray right underneath the design. So we're going to do that for both our dark color stencil and our light color one. We're going to tape them down and make sure we get anything that's going to possibly get paint underneath it. We're going to put it down. It is time to spray paint our stencil. Got things taped down. Tried to get the parts that were poking up a little bit with some loops of tape. And I've chosen my two colors for my darker one. I'm going to do a purple, and I shook it up for a minute or two. We're going to spray from about maybe 12 inches away, not too close. And also thinking about the angle that we're spraying. So here goes. Of course, it's windy out today. Okay, so you don't want to spray too much. Less is more. And just make sure you cover everything and let it dry for a little bit. If you do put too much paint on there, it kind of acts like just glue that you're putting on there, and it gets a little messy. So less is more. Same thing with the yellow paint. That should do it. I let my stencil dry for 4 or 5 minutes and then started to peel up the stencil. And you do want to make sure that you're pretty nice to your stencil. Don't rip it too much, because you can spray this over and over again. So we can see what we got here. Here's our dark color. You can see how it kind of has a faded edge there. That's because it got underneath the stencil. So if I do this again, I might even apply a little bit of glue and make sure I don't let it dry all the way. But that will work. And then our yellow one, you can see where I had my tape balls under there, looks like this. and a little bit strange, but we're gonna go ahead and switch the stencils now. I'm gonna put the yellow one on top of the purple and the purple on the yellow. We're gonna spray again. I'm gonna tape things down, make my little loops to make sure that everything pokes down where it needs to, and we'll spray again. Spraying coat number 2 here. So I'm gonna spray the opposite color, and I've tried to get things to stick down to the paper so paint doesn't get underneath. We will see how that goes. I guess I'm gonna spray yellow on this one first. Make sure that things are not poking up. Try not to get it too heavy. Think about the angle that I'm spraying at. Let that one. And then get the camera set up again. And we're gonna spray the next one. I think we might be good. All right. So let's see how they turned out here. We're gonna peel off the stencil from our purple one, seeing what we got. Looks pretty good. You can see where some of the things sprayed underneath. So adjusting that, if I wanted to spray again, we'll do our other one. Looks pretty good. Again, there's some places where it got underneath, but that can kind of also add to the effect too. So there's my 2 finished stencils. If I was going to do it again, I think I might try changing the yellow to something a little bit different. Maybe a lighter blue or something like that, or a lighter purple would be cool too. So there we go.